BlackRock. So here we are.
There's an AI robot that controls more wealth than any country on Earth.
Now what they've decided is they want to own every single family home in our country.
And they've jacked the price of real estate up by going in and just outbidding everybody.
In some cases, they bought up 90% of single-family homes in a given zip code.
They disclose that they have like 14 trillion.
The guy running BlackRock is really the president of the United States.
I'm standing in front of the headquarters of a company that manages $10.6 trillion. That's more than half the United States GDP. Last time, I covered the shady consulting group McKinsey, and you guys asked for one thing: BlackRock. So here we are. BlackRock is the subject of a lot of speculation online.
There is a robot that controls more wealth than any country on Earth.
Really, the commander-in-chief is Larry Fink.
Yep. They have stock in 95% of Fortune 500 companies, and they've been hired by governments across the world to help manage financial crises and even just conduct normal operations. That means that pretty much any time you interact with the economy, working, buying stuff, driving a car, going to the bank, anything, you're interacting with BlackRock. They profit off of every bit of your life while controlling just the minimum amount they need to make sure they can continue profiting off of every bit of your life. While they're not necessarily the ones making all the nitty-gritty decisions in every company, it is their influence and this giant structure of universal ownership that continues to make their pie bigger and ours smaller. We have something more like a shareholder oligarchy where the people with the most power over where our money and stuff goes are incentivized to make that stuff worse and more expensive and not work for us. And I think we deserve a better one where the people who create the wealth have a say in where it goes.
This photo has been circulating around the internet for a while now, but it shows how many of the companies that we think of as competing are owned by the same entities. Therefore, there is no real competition. However, this graphic is one that I'm more interested in because this shows the competing interests of housing, insurance companies, media companies, namely Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, who look like they are competing when in reality they are setting the material reality for all of us, because there is no free market whenever it is owned by so few entities.
We went quite viral recently on TikTok for videos about BlackRock. What is BlackRock and how do they own everything?
Yeah, so BlackRock is an organization, it's a company publicly listed on NASDAQ that has tens of trillions of dollars of assets under management. They disclose that they have like 14 trillion, but that is only BlackRock. Then they own majority share in most of the companies in America, right? So they also have money and funneled through all those things as well. So what companies? They own Pfizer, they own Moderna, they own all the airlines, they own all the social networks. So when you see all this stuff, all this agenda kind of everybody working together, then you have to realize who actually owns it. This isn't a conspiracy. You go to Yahoo Finance, you go to top holders of all these shareholding companies, and you see BlackRock and Vanguard at the top. So you go to Amazon, for example, you go to Yahoo Finance, you go to Amazon, you go to the ticker of the stock, you go to top holders, and you realize Jeff Bezos ain't the biggest holder of Amazon. As you run these companies and these organizations publicly listed, you need to understand that people with money, they can come in and swoop your shit. BlackRock is one of those organizations. I made a video about it. It did quite well on the internet, and it's nothing new, right? It's not the only organization that kind of runs the game. You can talk about that segment and that department of kind of like the publicly traded companies. But now, which is the crazy part, dude, is BlackRock is starting to get into the Chinese market. So they're starting to branch out their tentacles outside of the North American market. It's quite scary. So, I mean, I think autonomy, sovereignty is kind of the most important thing that people should be focused on, which is how can I make enough to be self-reliant and not have to depend on the system, depend on greedy people, depend on these psychopath motherfuckers that are out here to literally take everything that you're worth with no remorse whatsoever, because hey, it's just business. That's how they see it. People have been conquering lands, dude, for the longest time. You know, you see Genghis Khan, you see Alexander the Great, you see Julius Caesar. Dude, these were ruthless motherfuckers. These were killers. That's why they won. That's why they took over the game. So if you think that at the highest echelons of business, these guys aren't the same way, then you don't get the game.
What if I told you there's an AI robot that controls more wealth than any country on earth? A robot so powerful that in the last 10 years, it's created the biggest company in the world that they don't want you to know about. This AI is called Aladdin. It's Wall Street's best kept secret, and it's gobbling up every asset class across every industry. Aladdin was created by, you guessed it, BlackRock, and it now controls over $21 trillion of our global economy. To give you an idea of how much money that is, the total physical cash held by everybody on the planet and every single company bankrolled in the world is only $5 trillion. This one robot directs the actions of all the major banks and investment funds on Wall Street. Half of all the ETFs, 17% of the bond market, 10 out of global stock markets, and carries out 250,000 trades every day and billions of forecasts every week. Year after year, it's been hoovering up trillions of data points on every market, every company, every asset, and now even each one of us, what we buy, sell, and say, so that it knows what to buy and what to sell far better than any human being.
Now, how exactly will the future masters of the planet look like? This will be decided by the people who own the data.
So if the money forms the foundations to every civilization and the data determins who the masters of the planet are, then what genie are we actually letting out of the bottle here?
How much, Joe, have you looked at, Larry Fink, Soros, State Street, Vanguard, BlackRock? How much have you looked at what they're doing and what their ties are?
I've looked at it.
They're pretty much running everything. S&P 500, the number that 88% of the companies on S&P 500, 88% of them, the largest shareholder of those companies is either State Street, BlackRock, or Vanguard. So why are these guys doing what they're doing? You have all the money in the world. You live in a $100 million house. Not you, Larry Fink and some of these guys. I don't know if he lives in a $100 million house, but you got some money to live in a $100 million. What else do you need?
Right.
You got nice cars. Jamie Dimon's got a $900 million art collection, according to an article. It's a nice art collection, right? You go to all the nice restaurants, you meet prime ministers, you meet presidents. And then maybe there comes a time when you're looking at a couple of these guys, they're presidents and prime ministers, and you tell yourself, I'd be a better president than you, bro. How the hell am I not reading the country? Or they tell themselves, you think you're a president? You're not a president, you work for me. What else is the motive? The point is control, is what I'm saying. So the motive becomes control more than money. After you have all the money in the world, what's next? We say we have a commander-in-chief, but really the commander-in-chief is Larry Fink. Today, the guy running BlackRock is really the president of the United States.
This man is one of the most powerful people in all of finance. You've probably heard of the controversial money management company BlackRock, but not their founder. Larry Fink is the founder and CEO of BlackRock. Fink got his start by creating baskets of mortgages, car loans, and other forms of debt and selling them to institutions. This was the start to his massive empire. BlackRock was hired by the U.S. government to help with the 2008 bailout, hired by the U.S. government to help during the COVID-19 bond buying program, and just recently hired by Ukraine to help with the post-Russian Ukraine war rebuilding efforts. But this is where things get interesting. BlackRock has large stakes in the largest companies in the world. Therefore, they have tons of power when it comes to shareholder votes and board seats. Larry Fink essentially has massive influence in every large company in the world. Critics have said that Fink uses his influence to push his personal agenda, not better these companies.
During the 2008 meltdown, when the government bailed out too big to fail giants like Bear Stearns, AIG, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, who did they hire to analyze and clean up the mess? Another giant financial firm by the name of BlackRock, led by a very well-connected billionaire by the name of Larry Fink. BlackRock was awarded these key government contracts to help with the meltdown with no competitive bidding while being enveloped in secrecy. Basically, Larry Fink was hired to be the manager of Washington's bailout of Wall Street, even though BlackRock is one of the biggest shareholders in the same banks they were helping to get bailed out, making Larry Fink the most powerful man in the post-bailout economy. Fast forward to the 2020 pandemic. Basically, they were bailing out corporations that had too much debt to withstand the pandemic. You guessed it, they went right back to BlackRock. Even though, again, the same corporations BlackRock was helping to bail out were the same corporations that they own some of the biggest stakes in.
Keep in mind though, these are just the top 10 holdings. The whole list, which the Fed has published on the New York Fed website, includes 794 companies. So yes, these are just the top 10 by holdings, but there are hundreds of other companies that could be part of the Fed's portfolio as well.
Larry Fink was the most powerful man in the post-bailout economy, and now he's arguably one of the most powerful men in the post-pandemic economy as well. And yet, despite all his considerable power, the general public has practically never heard of Larry Fink.
So we went through a deal. I'm like, let me see if these guys, this ESG, Larry Fink, Vanguard, State Street, if they have any influence on military contract, defense contracts. Wow. If you Google the largest shareholder for Raytheon, 3 out of the 4 top shareholders of Raytheon, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. It could be top 3 with Raytheon, but I think it's 3 out of 4. If you go look up General Dynamics, if you go look up Boeing, if you go look up, Northrop Grumman, okay? And then you work backwards and you say, okay, how much money is that in what these guys are doing? A lot, right? And when you look at these contracts, then you're like, okay, Fink is there, these guys are there. Okay, let's go look at Hollywood. Same thing you see there. Let's go look at pharmaceutical. Let's go look at this. And you're like, wait a minute. These guys essentially have a monopoly. These guys is more wars, more people dying, more profits, defense contractors, right? And they ended up having, I think, that 31 signers. I think end of 2022, they got 60 something signers for a total of $70 trillion of assets under management that they're controlling. So now they're controlling other places. And just recently, if you saw the rebuilding of Ukraine, did you see this contract? Rebuilding of Ukraine, $400 billion contract. BlackRock and Chase is helping rebuild Ukraine. And then, okay, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but what the hell is going on here?
BlackRock has done their deal with Zelensky to reconstruct Ukraine after the war. BlackRock is a top beneficial owner of shares in major arms manufacturers who are reaping immense profits from the war in Ukraine. We sell the weapons, and then when they need to rebuild Ukraine, guess who rebuilds it? Someone else? Not someone else. Us! And guess who funds it? Someone else? Yeah, someone else. Here's Hillary Clinton offering up economic opportunities in the aftermath of the illegal and devastating Iraq War.
Iraq has one of the largest customer bases in the entire Arab world.
Customer bases? They just had a war. This is one of the best customer bases. Well, what about all these children? Customers.
It's time for the United States to start thinking of Iraq as a business opportunity.
No one's thinking of Ukraine as a business opportunity, and to say that that's even a possibility makes you and me conspiracy theorists.
Here we are with our latest story, this time on BlackRock. At OMG, we do not shy away from exposing powerful companies, and we're not afraid of powerful people. So we decided to take a look for ourselves at the influence BlackRock has on our politics and the influence they have on our culture. But we hope and believe by showing these tapes of this BlackRock gatekeeper speaking so plainly on so many topics that not only we wake up people, but also inspire others to come forward on institutions like BlackRock.
It's who's controlling the wallet. So it's
and who's that?
The hedge funds, BlackRock, the banks. These guys want campaign financing. Yep, you can buy your candidates. All of these financial institutions, they buy politicians.
But perhaps the most remarkable and profound comment by the BlackRock recruiter is the suggestion that nobody is going to care about what he is saying here or confessing here. Because as he says, quote, normal people don't give a shit.
You're like an undercover reporter.
Really? Don't normal people worry about this stuff?
No, normal people don't give a shit. This is beyond them.
That these types of questions my reporter asked are beyond all of you. The answer is something that you, the people, consumers, the shareholders, could possibly understand.
How do they run the world?
You acquire stuff. You diversify, you acquire, you keep acquiring, you spend whatever you make in acquiring more. And at a certain point, your risk level is super low. Like, imagine you've invested in like 10 different industries, from food to to drinks to like technology, right? One of them fails, it doesn't matter. You have 9 others to back you up. Risk management is inherently in just about everything, and in the finance space, it's all about it's all about the money you make. You don't let it sit. You keep using it over and over, and
Reinvest.
And it exponential growth.
And then once you just own a little bit of everything, is that where the control?
Yeah, you own a little bit of everything, and that little bit of everything gives you so much money on a yearly basis that you can take this big ton of money, and then you can start to buy people. I'll watch you guys.
They're all pushing like the same talking point. Like you generally, when you look at news, like
it's propaganda. Ukraine is good for business. You know that, right? I'll give an example. Russia blows up Ukraine's grain silos. Price of wheat's gonna go mad up. Ukrainian economy is tied very largely to the wheat market, global wheat market. This is fantastic if you're trading. Volatility creates opportunity to make profit. War is real good for business. It's exciting when goes wrong, right?
It's been said that it's easier to fool a man than to convince him he's been fooled. There is no question that many Americans are still asleep, who may not want to wake up from their necessary illusions.
March of 2022, we committed $113 billion. Just to give you an example, we could have built a home for almost every homeless person in this country. We then committed another $24 billion since then, 2 months ago, and now President Biden's asking for another $60 billion. But the big expenses are going to come after the war.
Ukraine is already opening up for big investment, and hand-rubbing has been happening over a potential business bonanza. Kyiv engaged BlackRock and JP Morgan in 2023 to help set up a fund to raise public capital that could attract private investment for Ukraine's reconstruction. But has the Russia-Ukraine war created a massive profit opportunity?
Number two, most important, Ukraine has to put all of its government-owned assets up for sale to multinational corporations, including all of its agricultural land, the biggest single asset in Europe. In Ukraine, there's been 1,000 years of war fought over that land. It's the richest farmland in the world. It's the breadbasket of Europe.
They have some of the best resources in the world that we need. It's not like it's a place without any resources. The country ranks 4th globally in terms of total assessed value of natural resources, with roughly $15 billion in annual output of potential assessed value that could be as high as $7.5 trillion. So guess what BlackRock and Larry Fink think? Bingo, this is the type of a place for us, guys. Let's go in. So you think Larry Fink, who runs BlackRock, who's got over $10 trillion of assets under management, only 2 countries' GDP is bigger than Larry Fink's company's total money under assets under management, China and US. BlackRock is the 3rd largest country. If you were to look at what they have, assets under management, they're coming in here saying, guys, come on, guys, what are you doing? You work for us. Here's what you're going to do, Zelensky. Here's what you're going to do, Biden. Give this guy that likes drugs and women and prostitute a little bit of this to be quiet. What are we doing here? This is too much noise we're making. Guys, stop it. We got to go make a few $100 billion. You guys are playing small games here. Let's go play the bigger games.
The average home in our country 2 years ago was $215,000. Today it's $400,000. And so kids today, like your kids and my kids, are never going to buy a home. There's 3 big companies, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. These are the biggest companies. Those 3 companies own 88% of the S&P 500. Wow. So they basically just own everything. And now what they've decided is they want to own every single family home in our country. Klaus Schwab says, famously, he says, under the Great Reset, you will own nothing, but you will be happy. They pay nothing for money. Their credit is so impeccable.
Oh, I see. They have like a 900.
Yeah. Oh. So they got the better than the best credit rating.
But isn't that like privatized communism or something? That's what it feels like.
Well, yeah, it's like socialism for the rich, and this barbaric, merciless, ruthless, savage capitalism for the poor.
Donald Trump's was seen in an ad for BlackRock. And if you didn't think this whole incident with Donald Trump was crazy enough, the fact that Trump is seen in this video for BlackRock just adds icing to the cake. BlackRock is one of the biggest companies in the world that owns shares in just about everything. BlackRock has been widely criticized over the years for investing in companies that are involved in fossil fuels, the arms industry, the People's Liberation Army, and human rights violations in China. BlackRock has been involved in these huge rumors that they were allegedly involved in owning Fox Network and the voting systems. And what makes this whole situation even weirder is the fact that BlackRock took down this video after Trump's was seen in this ad. Like I said, some things are just too much to be a coincidence, but I don't know. You guys let me know what you guys think about Trump being seen in an ad for BlackRock in the comments.
Oh yeah! During the pandemic, there was a lot of rent relief. What ended up happening was it ended up being, transfer of wealth. All these bailouts went to these big corporations, right? Yep. It truly benefited not mom and pop landlords because they still were on the hook for their taxes and utilities and things like that. It really benefited corporate landlords who went in and then bought up a lot of single family homes, and then they jacked the price of real estate up by going in and just outbidding everybody, buying these homes in cash. People have been priced out of home ownership, and now they're renting the homes that are owned by BlackRock. Up until recently, they kind of got out of the real estate game because they were taking a little heat. They're like, now we're buying at the height of the market, rates suck, whatever. They backed out, but up until recently, they were, I think, the biggest corporate buyer of U.S. residential real estate. They've priced a generation of people out of owning a home. I think eventually all of these big corporations want you to rent, take Ubers and Lyfts, food delivered. They don't want you to own a business. They want you to work at a corporation that they own. It's terrifying.
So what is BlackRock? Well, it's technically not BlackRock. It's their partner company, Blackstone. They're buying up a bunch of real estate, and they bought, I think, close to $300 billion over the last 10 years. They are the largest landowner in the United States. In fact, in some cases, they bought up 90% of single-family homes in a given zip code, and they rent them out.
Because it's affecting people too that want to get into their homes.
You can't compete. They're paying 20 to 50% over the asking price in a lot of the cases with these new builds. You can't compete with that as a family that wants to buy a house in Atlanta, Georgia, or wherever.
So what should people be doing?
Trying to buy while they still can. You got to hustle.
Good morning. Good to see you. You are coming on the air right now with breaking news. A massive global technical outage tied to CrowdStrike, which is a major cybersecurity provider, has knocked critical computer infrastructure offline all across the country and, in fact, all around the world. It's an issue with a software update. It's impacting lots and lots of Microsoft computer systems worldwide, from businesses to emergency services, 911, traffic lights, transit systems, and it's having a major impact on airlines as well. American, Delta, United, they're all keeping their flights grounded. You're looking at some live scenes from the airport. It is chaos again, 6 a.m. on the East Coast, and this is the scene now. They're having difficulty even printing any kind of boarding passes. This, of course, is a developing situation, but this is something that's affecting people worldwide.
Yeah, and other newsrooms, our partners over at Sky News, having issues as well. I mean, this is impacting all different types of businesses. When you talk about airlines, you also talk about, just 911 services, in some cases reporting outages as well. And you're even hearing of anecdotes of banks in other countries experiencing that. We don't yet have reporting of banks in the United States being impacted by this.
What if I told you that all corporations are actually just one giant mega corporation? And I'm not talking about metaphorically. And I'm not talking about BlackRock. I'm talking about what's really behind BlackRock. I was sitting in my office reading this report from an anonymous user on Reddit, and he had noticed the exact same thing that I'm talking about right now. And he wrote a program to put all that data into a visualization so we can see who owns who. And I'm about to show you what he figured out. Let's take BlackRock, for example. This is a list of the top institutional owners of BlackRock and how much of the company they own. And if you visualize it, it looks like this, where the whole square is all of BlackRock's stock, and they get a percentage of that square based on how much they own. And the important colors to note are that white symbolizes us, retail investors, and gray symbolizes insiders that work at the company. So that would be like Larry Fink's stock, among other people. And everything else is other giant corporations, investment banks, like BlackRock themselves own a little bit. State Street owns some. Capital World Management owns some. Bank of America owns some. You see how this works? But then you think about it and you're like, well, wait a minute, because all of these institutions are owned by other institutions, right? So what if we put that data in here? Well, you did. And it looks like this. And you realize that all of this that was owned by Merrill Lynch is actually owned by all of these other institutions and a little bit of us, retail, up there at the top. But here, we've only replaced Merrill Lynch's section. What about all of these guys? Well, then it looks like this. Remember, white is retail investors like you and me, and everything else is giant mega corporations. And if you go one layer deeper, filling in all those corporations with their corporations, you see how this program's working? And so then we simplify it to just black, gray, and white. And this is who owns BlackRock. White is retail investors like you and me. Gray is insiders at all of these corporations like CEOs and other executives. And black is just corporations owning each other. We'll call it megacorp. This is the same process done for Bank of America and for State Street and for Best Buy, Amazon, Macy's. Groceries, food, ingredients, building and selling homes, even less white, meaning us, retail ownership. As far as I can tell, there's only one company on the entire stock market that is not owned by megacorp. And you guess who it is? Do you know? It's GameStop. Except that this photo's out of date because it's from a few years ago. It probably looks more like this if you believe the public info, which is a big if. But more on that another time. This is not a video about GameStop. This is about megacorp. Because see, when all of the owners own each other, all of their interests are aligned. BlackRock wants State Street to do well because State Street wants BlackRock to do well because they both own each other. So who is the real final boss behind all the money? Well, isn't that the $1 million question? So I found out who actually owns BlackRock, but there's something really weird about it. Because by now we know that BlackRock is in the top 3 shareholders of basically every corporation in America and beyond. And they do this using our money in things like retirement accounts, pension funds, IRAs, exchange traded funds, mutual funds, but most people don't actually know who owns and controls BlackRock. We all know that it was founded by Larry Fink and he's the face of the company, but he does not control it. When you try to find out who does control it, you'll usually find this list, which is the top institutional shareholders. Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are right at the top, just like every other company. But this is not the whole story. Because if you dig deep enough, you'll find out that actually Merrill Lynch owns 45% of BlackRock. And they're considered an insider, so they don't show up on the top institutional holders list. This merger took place in 2006. So actually Merrill Lynch controls BlackRock in a big way. But who controls Merrill Lynch? Well, Merrill Lynch is actually a division of Bank of America because Bank of America bought them out during the 2008 financial collapse. But I also dug in a little bit into where Bank of America came from and who founded them, and all modern banks are crazy histories of mergers and acquisitions and banks changing their names and merging with other banks, probably for no particular reason. But Bank of America traces its roots back in 2 different directions, one of which I'm not going to talk about, and the other one is back to this Italian dude named Amedeo Giannini, who acquired what was then called Banca d'America d'Italia. Sorry for that accent. Over the years, it changed its name to Bank America, and then in the biggest merger in history, merged with Charlotte-based Nation Bank in 1998. The plot thickens. So 2 things. If you want to follow the history of Bank of America down the other trail, you might wind up in a certain family name that you aren't aware of that is really hard to find on the internet. That'll probably get videos taken down. Total conspiracy theories.